Nevaeh's confession hit me like a thunderclap in the quiet of my Manhattan apartment kitchen that crisp autumn morning. Kennedy, I stayed the night because I couldn't leave without telling you the truth. I've been in love with you since the moment we met at the client dinner last week, she said. Her voice steady but her eyes pleading as the sunlight streamed through the windows onto her dark hair. My heart pounded, the words sinking in as the realization that this wasn't just a guest staying over due to the storm, but a woman who had captured my soul in ways I never expected. But the peace shattered instantly when my phone buzzed repeatedly on the counter, the screen filling with alerts from my law firm partners. The minor fender bender Nevaeh had been in the night before on her way to my place had escalated into a full-blown class action lawsuit against the auto manufacturer we were defending, and somehow a blurry photo of her entering my building had leaked to the press with captions questioning if the defense lawyer was compromising the case by hosting the victim. Overnight, I grabbed the phone, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through the headlines. Lawyer Kennedy Thompson shelters accident victim amid lawsuit. Conflict of interest? One read and another hinted at more with personal ties suspected in high-profile case. Nevaeh leaned over, her shoulder brushing mine, and I felt a rush of warmth mixed with dread. This was the crisis I had dreaded in my career, the kind that could end my shot at partnership in the prestigious firm of Harrington and Associates. What do we do? She whispered, her hand finding mine. I pulled away slightly, the decision already looming. Protect my reputation by claiming it was purely professional help after the accident, or admit the spark that had grown into love and risk everything. The phone rang, my boss's name flashing. Kennedy, get to the office now. This is a nightmare, and we need damage control before the media circus starts. Hanging up, I looked at Nevaeh, her face a mix of hope and fear, and knew this was the beginning of a battle that would test us both to the core. The previous night replayed in my mind as I rushed to dress. Nevaeh had called me after her car skidded in the rain on the way from a work-related meeting we had both attended as opposing sides in the preliminary talks. As the on-call lawyer for client relations, I had driven to the scene, ensured she wasn't seriously hurt, and since her apartment was across town and flooded with traffic, I offered my place for the night. We talked for hours about the case, the industry, life in New York, and something deeper clicked. No one knew then that the accident would explode into a lawsuit claiming defective brakes, with Nevaeh as a key witness. Now the leak made it look like collusion. As we headed out the door together, the first paparazzi snapped photos from across the street, and I realized every step forward would be a choice between self and her. At the office, the partners were in full panic mode. This could sink the case, Kennedy, my mentor said, slamming a file down. You need to issue a statement saying it was purely humanitarian. No personal involvement. I nodded, but Nevaeh's confession echoed, making the lie taste bitter. The pressure was immediate. My career, built on years of late nights and sacrifices, hung by a thread. But as I left the meeting, a text from Nevaeh. I'm at the coffee shop nearby. I won't let this ruin you. The conflict burned. Protect myself by distancing, or stand with the woman who had made me feel alive for the first time. Colleagues stared as I walked the halls, whispers following me like shadows. By noon the local news vans were parked outside the building, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing with unknown numbers. I slipped out a side door, heart racing, and met Nevaeh at the cafe. Her eyes searched mine. Kennedy, if I have to walk away to save your job, I will. But the way she said it told me she hoped I wouldn't let her. I reached across the table, our fingers brushing, and for the first time that day the fear felt smaller than the pull between us. Yet outside the window a reporter was already pointing a camera our direction, and I knew the storm had only just begun. We left the cafe separately to avoid more photos, but the damage was already spreading. By the time I reached my apartment that evening, my mother's number lit up the screen. Someone in Texas had seen the online articles and called her. Kennedy, what on earth is going on? There are pictures of you with some woman, and they're saying you're mixed up in a lawsuit. Your father is beside himself. Her voice cracked with the familiar mix of worry and disapproval that had followed me since I left home for law school. I tried to explain it was complicated, that Nevaeh was just a witness I'd helped after an accident, but the words felt hollow even to me. She pressed harder. You know how this looks in our circles. People talk. Your career is everything. Don't throw it away over some stranger. The call ended with her pleading for me to issue a denial statement immediately. I sat on the couch staring at the blank TV, the weight of family expectation pressing down like the media outside. Nevaeh texted me an hour later. I saw the headlines too. My editor called. They want me to stay silent about us or risk my own job at the paper. She was a features writer, not directly tied to the lawsuit coverage, but the overlap was toxic. We agreed to meet at a quiet park bench near the river after dark. The city lights reflected on the water as she sat beside me, close enough that our knees touched. I meant what I said this morning, Kennedy. I love you. But I won't be the reason you lose everything you've worked for. Her voice broke, and for the first time I saw tears. I pulled her into my arms, the first real embrace since the confession, and whispered that we would figure it out together. Yet even as I said it, doubt gnawed at me. The firm had scheduled an emergency ethics meeting for tomorrow, and my promotion review was next week. One wrong word and the partnership track would vanish. The next morning the firm's HR director slid a draft statement across the table. Sign this, Kennedy. It says the overnight stay was strictly professional assistance after the accident, and that there is no personal relationship. I stared at the paper, pen hovering. Signing meant denying Nevaeh, erasing the night that had changed me. Refusing meant risking suspension or worse. Colleagues watched from the glass walls, some with pity, others with judgment. I thought of my parents' faces if the story reached their church group, of the loans I still paid from law school, of the life I had built brick by brick. Nevaeh's face flashed in my mind, her courage in confessing despite everything. I set the pen down. I need time. The director's expression hardened. Time is the one thing we don't have. The plaintiff's lawyers are already using this against us in court filings. As I left the room, my phone buzzed again. Another tabloid photo of us at the cafe, captioned, "Lesbian lawyer cozy with key witness?" The word hit like a slap. The secret I had guarded for years was now public ammunition, and the real fight had just begun. That afternoon I drove to Nevaeh's temporary hotel. Her apartment building was swarmed by reporters. She opened the door looking exhausted but relieved to see me. We sat on the bed, hands linked, talking through every possible path. "If I come out publicly with you, the firm will drop me," I said. "If I stay silent, I keep my job but lose you." She nodded slowly. "And if I testify against the manufacturer, they'll paint me as biased because of us." The choices were all razor-edged, each one slicing away part of our futures. Outside the window the city hummed on, indifferent, while inside our world narrowed to the space between us. I kissed her forehead, the first kiss born of love instead of accident, and felt the terrifying certainty that whatever we chose next would change us forever. The media storm intensified overnight. By sunrise every major outlet in New York had picked up the story, twisting facts until the narrative became promising attorney risks career for secret lesbian affair with lawsuit witness. My inbox overflowed with interview requests, some sympathetic, most predatory. At the firm the partners called an all-hands meeting. I sat at the long table while the managing partner laid out the ultimatum. Issue the denial statement by noon or face administrative leave pending investigation. "This isn't about your personal life," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "It's about the appearance of impropriety. Our client is losing millions because of this distraction." I felt every eye in the room judging me, not just as a lawyer but as a woman who had dared to love another woman openly. I left the building without signing anything and walked straight to the courthouse steps where Nevaeh was waiting for a preliminary hearing. Paparazzi swarmed the moment we appeared together. Flashes popped like gunfire. "Kennedy, is the relationship real? Nevaeh, did you stay overnight to influence the case?" We pushed through, hands brushing but not holding, until we reached the side entrance. Inside the marble hallway she turned to me, voice low. "I can withdraw as witness. Say I'm too emotionally involved. It might save your job." The offer was generous, selfless, and it broke something inside me. "No," I answered. "That would make everything we feel a lie. I won't let them win by making us hide." Back at my apartment that evening my parents called again, this time on speaker with my brother listening. "Kennedy, we saw the pictures," Dad said, voice tight. "We raised you better than this. Come home, take a break from that city and those people." The rejection stung deeper than any lawsuit. Nevaeh sat beside me, silent support, as I tried to explain that love wasn't a choice I could turn off. The call ended in tears, mine and my mother's. Afterward, Nevaeh held me while I cried, her fingers tracing circles on my back. "They'll come around," she whispered, but we both knew it might take years. The night stretched long with whispered plans. Hire our own attorney, prepare counterstatements, decide whether to go public together. Every option felt like jumping off a cliff. By morning, the firm had placed me on leave, until the matter is resolved. My career, the one constant in my life, was slipping away. Yet lying in Nevaeh's arms, I felt strangely anchored. The price of silence was starting to look higher than the price of courage. The weeks that followed blurred into a nightmare of legal filings and public scrutiny. Our joint attorney advised us to file a motion to protect Nevaeh's rights as a witness while I sought an injunction against the firm's internal investigation. Court dates piled up. At one hearing, the plaintiff's lawyer openly questioned whether my relationship with Nevaeh tainted every document I had touched on the case. I stood in the witness box, heart hammering, and answered truthfully for the first time. My feelings for Nevaeh developed after the accident. They have not influenced my professional judgment. The judge looked skeptical. Cameras outside captured every exit, turning our lives into daily entertainment. Nevaeh's own newspaper placed her on unpaid leave, citing conflict of interest. We moved into a small sublet together to escape the constant harassment, pooling what little savings we had left. Nights were spent reviewing case files and talking through worst-case scenarios. "If I lose my license," I told her one night over cheap takeout, "I don't know who I am anymore." She cupped my face. "You're the woman I fell in love with, the one who helped a stranger in the rain and stayed up all night listening to her dreams. That person is still here." Her words steadied me, but the fear remained. My family stopped calling altogether after a tabloid ran a story claiming I had turned my back on traditional values. The silence from Texas hurt worse than arguments. Then came the firm's formal ethics complaint. They accused me of violating conflict rules and demanded a hearing before the state bar. Nevaeh insisted on attending with me. In the sterile conference room, I faced the disciplinary panel and read my prepared statement. "I will not deny who I am or who I love. The relationship is real, but it began after the accident and has never compromised the case." Gasps rippled through the room. Nevaeh squeezed my hand under the table. Outside afterward, reporters shouted questions. One asked if we regretted the overnight stay that started everything. I looked straight into the cameras. "I regret nothing that led me to her." The words felt like freedom and a death sentence at the same time. That night we celebrated quietly with a bottle of wine on the fire escape, toasting to the first honest step we had taken. Yet we both knew the real consequences were still coming. The bar hearing lasted 3 grueling days. Expert witnesses debated ethics, media experts analyzed the public perception damage, and I sat through it all with Nevaeh at my side. On the final afternoon, the panel delivered its ruling. My license was suspended for 6 months pending further review, and the firm terminated my employment immediately. The gavel sounded like a prison door closing. Outside the building, Nevaeh and I stood in the rain, ironically the same weather that had brought us together, while cameras flashed. "I'm so sorry," she said, tears mixing with raindrops. I pulled her close. "Don't be. I chose this. I chose us." The next morning brought fresh headlines. Fired lesbian lawyer stands by witness lover in massive auto lawsuit. Sponsors pulled from the manufacturer. The class action gained momentum. My former colleagues sent mixed messages, some supportive texts, others radio silence. My phone rang with job offers from smaller firms willing to take the publicity risk, but none felt right. Nevaeh's paper offered her reinstatement if she wrote an exclusive on her side of the story. She turned it down flat. "I won't profit from us," she said. Instead, we spent days in the sublet planning our next move. A joint press conference where we would speak as a couple, then file our own civil suit against the firm for discrimination. The press conference happened on the courthouse steps, the same ones where photographers had first caught us. I spoke first, voice steady despite the nerves. Love should never cost a career, yet here we are. I stand by Nevaeh, by the truth, and by every woman who has ever had to choose between authenticity and ambition. She followed, her hand in mine. Kennedy showed me kindness when the world was chaotic. I won't let fear erase that. The crowd was split. Cheers from supporters, boos from critics. But for the first time we felt united against the storm. That evening we received the first real offer of help. A civil rights organization contacted us about representing us pro bono. Hope flickered, small but real. Yet the lawsuit against the manufacturer was still raging, and our personal lives remained tabloid fodder. The climax of our fight was approaching, and we both knew one final decision could determine whether our love survived the wreckage. 6 months later, the state bar reinstated my license with a formal reprimand, citing mitigating personal circumstances. The manufacturer settled the class action for an 8-figure sum, and Nevaeh received a modest compensation that allowed us to move into a modest brownstone in Brooklyn. My new position at a boutique firm focused on civil rights paid less but felt honest. Family reconciliation came slowly. My mother visited first, hugging Nevaeh awkwardly but sincerely. "I just want you happy," she said. Dad followed months later, still stiff but trying. The media eventually moved on to fresher scandals, leaving us to rebuild in relative peace. Yet the scars remained. I lost old friends who couldn't reconcile the new Kennedy with the driven lawyer they once knew. Nevaeh still flinches at camera clicks. Some nights we lie awake replaying the choices. The statement I refused to sign. The press conference that changed everything. The silence we refused to keep. The price was real. Lost income, strained family ties, months of fear. But so was the reward. Looking at her across the kitchen table now, the same one where her confession began it all, I see the woman who made every risk worth taking. Our story became a quiet symbol for others facing similar crossroads. We receive letters from young lawyers and journalists struggling with their own truths. Each one reminds me that courage, while costly, creates space for others to breathe. Still, I wonder sometimes if silence might have preserved more. My old partnership track, my family's approval, the simpler life. But then Nevaeh smiles at me, and the answer feels clear. True or false? In the face of career-ending scandal and family rejection, protecting the woman you love is always worth every sacrifice. Or does silence sometimes save more than courage ever could?